Welcome back to the deep dive. If you want that shortcut to being well-informed, well, you're in the right place. Today, we are taking a deep breath and diving straight into the world of one person whose ideas, honestly, shaped a civilization. We're talking about Confucius.
That's right. His influence across 2,500 years is just immense, fundamentally shaping East Asian culture. And his core ideas, things like propriety, humaneness, virtue, they aren't just dusty history, they really are the foundations.
So our mission today is to unpack those key teachings, figure out how his philosophy lasted so long, and maybe most importantly, why ideas from the 5th century BCE might still matter to you right now.
Exactly. We're going to try and pull out the clearest insights, mostly working from the Analects.
Right, that collection of chats between him and his students. But like always, to really get the solution, we kind of need to understand the problem he was facing first.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to paint a picture of the era he lived in. Confucius was born around 551 BCE, state of Lu, ancient China, and he lived smack dab in the middle of the spring and autumn period. Sounds nice, but well, it wasn't.
Doesn't sound too bad. But yeah, this was actually a time of total chaos, wasn't it? The central Zhou dynasty was falling apart. So you've got like mini states fighting constantly, the old aristocracy losing its grip, and just massive social disorder for ordinary people.
Total chaos. Socially, politically, even intellectually. The old feudal system, based on ritual and who your parents were, it was crumbling. People were desperate for a new way, a new blueprint for order. And Confucius, he wasn't nobility. He came from humble beginnings, but he threw himself into studying the old ways, teaching. He wanted to build society back up, basically from the ground floor, focusing on morality.
And he wasn't just an academic type, right?
Yeah.
He tried to get involved, worked in government, advised rulers.
He did, spent years trying to get political roles, then ended up wandering between states, pitching his ideas to different rulers, mostly unsuccessfully, it has to be said.
Right. But he gathered this core group of dedicated students along the way.
Exactly, his disciples. And they're the ones we have to thank for writing down his teachings, his conversations in the Analects.
And the Analects itself isn't like a formal philosophical book, is it? It's more like snippets.
That's a great way to put it. It's like the highlight reel of a really dynamic teacher. Short sayings, bits of dialogue. Sometimes they even seem a bit contradictory without the context, but they all point towards this central goal: achieving harmony through cultivating moral character.
Okay, let's dig into that, the moral foundations. Because his system, it's not about, say, divine commandments. It's practical ethics aimed at fixing society. Starts with 3 big ideas, right? The first being the ultimate goal, Ren.
Yes, Ren. It's the absolute core. You often see it translated as humaneness or benevolence, sometimes even co-humanity. Basically, if you imagine the perfect, morally complete person, Ren is the quality they embody. That deep capacity for compassion, for kindness, for love towards others.
And I love how practical he made it. It wasn't just be good. He gave that version of the golden rule, but kind of flipped it, which feels easier to follow. What you do not desire for yourself, do not do to others.
Exactly. It forces you to look inward. Real Ren, real humaneness, isn't just about ticking boxes or following external rules. It demands self-reflection, empathy. You have to constantly measure your own actions. Would I want this done to me? It's the source, really, for all the other virtues.
Okay, so if Ren is the internal compass, pointing toward goodness, the second big concept is how you actually live that out in society. That's the lie, right? Usually translated as ritual or propriety.
Right. And just calling it ritual or propriety maybe undersells it a bit. Lie is how Ren shows up in your behavior. Remember, Confucius lived in chaos. People had forgotten the proper ways to act, to interact, how to hold society together. Lie was his attempt to sort of codify proper conduct, everything from big state ceremonies down to, how a son should talk to his father.
So it's more than just good manners. It's like the operating system for a functioning society.
Precisely. To fix the chaos, he laid out these key relationships, what became known as the 5 relationships: ruler and subject, father and son, husband and wife, older brother and younger brother, and even friend and friend. And he defined the proper virtuous conduct for each person in that pair.
Okay, to modern ears, that can sound a bit rigid, defining everyone's role so strictly. Why was that seen as so important, even revolutionary, back then?
Because it brought predictability and structure back from the brink. When everyone, say, the ruler and the subject acts according to their defined role with virtue, then order returns. The ruler needs to be just act like a proper ruler, and the subject should be loyal, act like a proper subject. And the revolutionary part, it meant even the ruler had moral obligations under Li. It wasn't just top-down commands. It was about mutual responsibility.
Okay. That shift is huge. from just power based on birth to power requiring moral behavior. And that focus on relationships and duties leads us straight to the third key virtue, Xiao, filial piety.
Xiao. Yes, this is the bedrock. Confucius basically thought if you can learn and practice your duties, your li, within the family unit, the smallest social group, then you're set up to do it in the state, the largest group. So Xiao is about respect, duty, care towards your parents and elders.
We tend to think of that as just, family stuff, tradition. But you're saying Confucius saw it as having massive political implications.
Absolutely massive. He believed that if you learned to honor and provide for your parents, you'd naturally develop that same sense of respect, loyalty, and responsibility towards your community leaders, towards the ruler. The family is the training ground for being a good citizen. If someone doesn't respect their parents, how can you possibly expect them to be a responsible official or a loyal subject? It's all linked.
Right. Ren, Li, Xiao put them together, and you have the Confucian recipe for social harmony. But he didn't just want to fix the state. He had this idea about what an ideal person should strive to be. This is where we get to the Junzi, the superior man.
Yes, the Junzi. And this might be one of his most radical ideas, socially speaking. Junzi originally just meant son of a ruler, basically a nobleman. Confucius completely flipped that. He took the hereditary meaning, threw it out, and replaced it with a purely moral one.
So the Junzi isn't about your family background at all. It's about whether you actually live out those virtues. Ren, Li, Xiao, it's defined by your character.
That's the absolute key. In a society rigidly defined by birth, Confucius was pushing for a kind of moral meritocracy. He was saying, look, a poor person with integrity could be morally superior to a corrupt prince. It shifts the whole basis of legitimate authority from bloodline to virtue. It's profound.
That's a direct challenge to the whole system back then. So what makes someone a Junzi? How did he contrast them with the opposite, the Xiaoren?
Right, the Xiaoren, or the petty man. The Junzi is always striving for moral growth, always focused on what is right, on righteousness. The Xiaoren, on the other hand, is fixated on profit, personal advantage, just basic comfort. There's a great line in the Analects that sums it up. The mind of the superior man is conversant with righteousness. The mind of the mean man is conversant with gain.
Righteousness versus gain. Wow, that still resonates today, especially when you think about leadership. So how do you become this Junzi? It doesn't just happen, right? It involves learning.
Exactly. And that brings us to the vital role of education in his system. For Confucius, education wasn't just about stuffing your head with facts or getting credentials, though that might happen too. Education, studying the classics, poetry, history, practicing the rituals, was fundamentally about shaping your character. It was the process of becoming moral.
So if the goal is a moral society, the education itself has to be focused on morality. Makes sense.
Precisely. Learning was the practical, day-to-day work that cultivated Ren within you. By engaging with tradition, with Li, you're constantly refining yourself, turning away from the selfish focus of the Xiaoren towards the virtuous path of the Junzi. It's, like you said, this self-reinforcing loop. Learning shapes you, you practice virtue, virtue creates harmony.
Okay, so let's pull this all forward. 2,500 years later, these ideas were born in this ancient, feudal, warring society. What possible relevance can Ren, Li, the Junzi ideal, have for us now in the 21st century?
Well, I think they're incredibly relevant because they tackle problems that haven't gone away. Take Ren, humaneness. Think about our world today, so much division, harsh online discourse, seemingly so little empathy sometimes. Ren is a powerful reminder that real dialogue, finding common ground, building community, it's impossible without that basic human kindness, that recognition of shared humanity, even with people we strongly disagree with.
Okay, and what about Li? Rituals, defined roles. Yeah. How does that map onto a modern world that values equality and flexibility?
You can think of Li today in terms of professional ethics, institutional respect, procedural fairness. Modern Li is about maintaining civility, upholding standards in your workplace or community. It means respecting the roles people have, whether you're an employee, a manager, a citizen, engaging with government, and acting with the integrity those roles require. When that organizational Li breaks down, trust evaporates, just like it did back in the Zhou dynasty.
Yeah, I could see that. And the Junzi, the ideal person, the superior man, that feels really important for leadership today.
Oh, absolutely. The Junzi gives us a model for ethical leadership, whether that's in politics, business, community organizing. It challenges leaders constantly. Are you prioritizing what's right over what's just profitable or personally advantageous? Are you focused on the well-being of the whole group? We desperately need leaders defined by moral character, not just by, quarterly results or poll numbers. Confucius argued good government flows naturally from personal virtue in its leaders.
What really stands out to me from all this is Confucius's, well, fundamentally optimistic view. He believed the real way to create order wasn't through force or strict laws alone, but through people choosing to cultivate virtue and respect within themselves. He seems to have had this deep faith in our capacity for goodness if we're properly guided and educated.
And that's such a powerful and frankly challenging message that endures. We're always looking for the next big structural fix, new tech, new regulations to solve human problems. But Confucius keeps pointing back to the individual. Fix yourself first. That's the beginning of the slow, hard, but necessary work of fixing society.
It reminds me of that quote, often attributed to him, about the dedication needed for this path. It does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop.
Exactly. That relentless focus on ethical self-improvement as the root of social change. That's his lasting power. So we've talked about these pillars: Ren, benevolence; Li, order, propriety; and Xiao, respect, filial piety. If you look around at the challenges we face today, the polarization, the erosion of trust, which of those three do you think is the most critical one for us to focus on rebuilding right now?
That's a great question to ponder. Something to take with you until our next deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Stay wise, stay curious, and maybe work on cultivating a little virtue.